locusts, as witnessed from late last year. Hungry insects that have since ravaged thousands of hectares of crops that sustain both human beings and their livestock. And as Nanok Lauren recalls the deadly invasion, the country is presently going through a second wave of the desert locust invasion.
The worst outbreak of desert locusts in Kenya in 70 years has seen swarms of locusts in their millions find their way into the East African Circle from Somalia and Ethiopia. The two countries have not had an infestation like this in a quarter century, an infestation that has resulted in massive farmland destruction and threatened an already vulnerable region with devastating hunger. A single swarm can contain up to 150 million locusts per square kilometer of farmland, with a small swarm capable of consuming enough food for 35,000 people in a single day. The livelihoods of thousands of already vulnerable people in East Africa were at stake, and for months a large part of the region was caught in a cycle with no end in sight as millions of locusts speedily became billions, biting away the leaves of both crops and the brush that sustains the livestock, so important to many families. When they invaded Kenya from Ethiopia and Somalia on December 28, 2019, the locusts were in their immature stage. They grew and matured, and one day after another, a total of 28 counties, including Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit, Garissa, Isiolo, Samburu and Meru counties are just but a few of the counties that are confirmed to have been plunged into the infestation. The crunch of young desert locusts began to be felt last year in the month of April amid the various predicaments of 2020, including the COVID-19 pandemic. The yellow locusts cover the ground and tree trunks like a twitching carpet, sometimes drifting over the dust like giant grains of sand. Livestock competed for pasture with hungry hoppers, a matter of survival for the fittest, a problem that worried pastoralists that there would be insufficient pasture for their livestock as the dry season approached. And not only were the effects severe for livestock, but also 15 to 20% of sorghum in Turkana County was damaged.
Ikiwa nzige zitapotea na maybe Mungu atuhurumie tupatie mvua hata kiasi, hali pengine inaweza rejea kabla ya wanyama hawajaangamia. Lakini ikiwa tutapata zaidi ya mwezi mmoja bila mvua na nzige imemaliza hii nyasi ambazo ziko, najua bila shaka maisha ya wanyama itaanza kudhoofika na wataanza kufa kwa njaa na magonjwa.
This prompted massive efforts, both aerial and ground operations, to control and contain a second generation of locusts, either at hopper or at swarm stage. On top of that, the Food and Agriculture Organization FAO trained hundreds of National Youth Service volunteers as part of its action plan to boost the government's surveillance and control of the destructive insects. Fortunately, by May, the government was able to gradually reduce the invasion in the country from the 28 affected counties to 16 counties. In the month of June, it narrowed down from 16 to 7 counties, and in a span of 2 months, July and August, locusts were successfully contained in 4 counties: Samburu, Turkana, Isiolo and Marsabit. And by September, the country was desert locust free.
And by July, we were battling desert locusts in only 4 counties of Samburu, Turkana, Marsabit and Isiolo. A month later, that is August 2020, we were largely successful in the same counties, and by September 2020, our country was descent locust free.
However, with the short-term locust containment, it has been projected that massive breeding is still ongoing in the neighboring Ethiopia and Somalia countries, an issue that may result in a second wave of locust invasion.
The invasion in Ethiopia and Somalia has not been contained, and a lot of breeding has been going on in these neighboring countries. Because of this, it was earlier projected that when the southerly winds start in December 2020, then we may experience a second wave of invasion.
This fear was recently confirmed by the government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna when he revealed that the second wave of desert locusts invading 9 counties has originated from the neighboring countries, affecting counties of Mandera, Garissa, Wajir, Marsabit, Kitui, Lamu, Taita Taveta, Kilifi and Tana River.
We are experiencing a second wave of locust invasion that has attacked the country from May this year. Now, this second wave of locust invasion, again, like the first one, came from neighboring countries, and you're all aware about the situation in our neighboring countries, which indeed is proving to be a problem in as far as containing these locusts are concerned.
Despite the panic, the government has assured Kenyans that all is under control and that the country is equipped to avert a possible hunger crisis should the locusts continue to ravage thousands of hectares of crops.
We have sufficient amount of pesticide, and already 200,000 liters have been delivered to respective control bases. We also have a stock of about almost 500,000 liters of assorted pesticides.
Of course, we have also equipment, vehicles that we are hiring more aircrafts. We have our transportation ready. We have controlled, scouts that were trained, whom we have planning now to retrain and remobilize. So we want to assure the country that there is nothing to really panic about.
The fight to see the deadly infestation of these migratory insects come to a complete halt in Kenya and its neighboring countries has been said to be a combined effort, as the success of one of the affected countries is dependent on the success of its neighbor.
You may do very well as a country, but locusts are migratory animals. They don't know boundaries. They fly across. And therefore, your success depends on also the success of your neighbor. So if your neighbor is not very successful in controlling, then you are not safe, irrespective of what you do.
Despite the efforts that have been gained over the fight against the ravenous locusts, FAO has raised an alarm over threats of possible drought that will call for careful monitoring and response capacity across the region to be ready for when a worse invasion occurs. Loren, TV 47.